Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'll give you 3 reasons why I love the Parrot Anafi. Now, I fly a lot of different quads, and I guess I do that because I'm a bit of a nerd and I'm seduced by new technology. So anytime a new quad comes out, I have to get it, take it home, fly it like crazy. I'll compare it to other quads that I own. I'll eventually put clips together to explain the benefits and features to you guys so you understand if it's worth your money. And I was thinking about it, and I've been flying the Anafi ever since it was released, and I fly it a lot, but I don't talk about it a lot on the channel. And really what prompted this clip was I got a lot of emails and questions from you guys this week about what my favorite quads are, my top 5 list, and I had a lot of new flyers asking me, and I thought every time I put a list like that together of the top 5 quads, the Anafi's on it, because it really is a unique quad in so many different ways that it allows me to do things the other quads don't. So when I leave the house and I've got a bag of quads with me, this guy's always in the bag. So I thought, let me put a clip together and explain what it is that makes this quad so special, where it gets to go with Rick to fly, where a lot of other quads are left home on the shelf. And I don't want to make this a my dad can beat up your dad debate over specifications, because there's a lot of clips out there where they just read the specs of how far it can fly, how much it weighs, how fast it can fly. And I'll do one of those clips to compare it to a bunch of different quads if you want. But for me, I wanted to give you reasons why, as a flyer, I picked this up. What is it about this quad that makes me want to fly with it? And what does it do for me as a tool that the other quads can't do? Because whether I'm flying for fun or for business, this guy's in the bag because there are shots it can get that I can't get with the other quads. And I'll explain what those are. Before I get too deep into the clip though, let me save you some time. If you're going to start flaming me down below and telling me how it's a toy and it's not really a quad that's worth my time, that's wrong. It's a fantastic quad. It's not a toy. It's a professional product. And I know it doesn't have a 3-axis gimbal. It's based on Wi-Fi. It's not OcuSync. It's made by Parrot. All those things don't matter to me because at the end of the day, I've tested it like crazy and it holds up really, really well against other quads in the category and actually does things those other quads can't do, and I'll explain those in a minute. So if you want to flame me, but know that I know about all the differences between the two. All right, so let's get started with the differences that really matter to me. The first one has to do with USB charging, and I know that sounds like a small thing, but the fact that I can take this quad with me on the road and I can use a standard USB-C cable with any USB wall charger to charge this guy is a home run. Because if I'm taking other quads on the road with me, I've got to take along a gigantic laptop-sized brick in my bag, which is heavy, it's specialized, and it charges 1 battery at a time typically. Or if I have a hub, I can charge 4, but it still charges 1 battery at a time. By being able to charge in the quad and even out of the quad is a major step forward as far as convenience goes, because a lot of times I'm between locations. I'll shoot at one location, I'll have to drive 45 minutes to another location to shoot. I can charge this in my car. I can plug in 5 batteries in my car if I have a big enough 12-volt adapter, and I can charge them all simultaneously, and they're ready to go when I get to the next location. These guys, I have to bring a big charger with me, and I either have to have an inverter to plug that in, or I've got to have an AC outlet in my car, or if I go with the car charger, maybe I charge 1 or 2 at a time. This is a major step forward. I can use the USB-C to charge both the batteries and the controller. I don't know why more companies aren't accepting that as the standard, because this really is a high performance interface standard that allows me to charge it. And what's frustrating is that other quads actually have USB-C connections on them. So I'm not here to pick on the Mavic Air because I love this quad as well and I use it all the time. It's my go-to quad for travel. But if you look closely in the back of the Mavic Air, there's a USB-C connection on here. So when this first came out and I started exploring it and figuring out what it was all about, I saw the USB-C in there and I went, thank you, DJI. You've eliminated the need to charge it. But then as I opened the box, there's a big charger inside there. So there's a USB-C here that won't charge the battery. It makes no sense to me that you wouldn't allow it to charge the battery. That's only used for transferring data off the quad. So again, I'm completely confused by that. I'm not sure if it was an engineering mistake where somebody was supposed to work on that and forgot to get it into the quad, but it would have been great if I could have charged that with USB-C. So that's the first advantage. Between shoots, I can charge it in the car, I can charge it in the field with a battery brick if I want, if it's a big enough brick. That's a home run, because the one thing that drives me nuts on shoots is not having enough batteries. These are not cheap. The batteries in both of these quads, I think, is about a $60 battery. This one's closer to $100. I don't want to be carrying 10 of those with me if I can have 4 of them and charge them between shoots. It's a home run for me. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing I'll talk about, which is a little bit more critical, and one of the reasons I take it with me to get a lot of the shots I need, is a thing called, I'll call it prop intrusion. And that has to do with the field of view. So for example, and again, I'm not picking on this, I'm just using it as an example. Quads have a field of view that they're actually filming, and they vary between the quads. So the Mavic Air has an 85-degree field of view, which means it's capturing everything for 85 degrees from the camera on out. This one has an 84-degree field of view. On the Mavic 2, the brand new Mavic 2s, I think it's smaller. It's 77 degrees field of view. And that's important because if you look closely, if I've got a wide field of view here and these props are rotating, they're going to be in that field of view. So what that means is, as I'm shooting, if I'm flying, you're going to see prop intrusion in that video. Now, what they've done, what a lot of manufacturers have done, including DJI, is they've gotten a little bit clever. So normally when you're flying, it's not that severe an angle, but you could get some prop in there if you're flying heavy against the wind. But what DJI has done, they're really smart, is if you put it in sport mode, because all the quads out there typically have a couple of different speeds. They have a filming mode, which is slow, where things turn slow and it flies slow. But if you put it in sport mode, the minute you kick this thing into gear to fly forward, it goes down like this, because then it gets pulled through the air like that. But if it swings down like that, these props become very apparent in that filming. So what DJI has done, which is really clever, but it drives me crazy, is they've actually adjusted the framing. So when you're setting the framing of the shot you want, and you go into sport mode, and you dip down like that, it actually slides the framing down so the props are not seen in the shot, which completely destroys the frame of what I'm trying to shoot. So if I want to shoot in sport mode, I have to sort of put up with the frame that they give me. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Rick, you wouldn't shoot in sport mode. Why would you be flying that fast filming? You could just fly at regular speed and speed it up. And that works for most shots, and that's what I'll do to compensate for it. But again, it's another step I have to take. This guy doesn't have that problem. So let me give you a feel here of how much it's intruding. So here's the standard, and I'll just put a ruler across the front of it here. So you can see that intrusion, because the camera's set so far back, there's a 3-inch gap between where the camera is and the tips of those props are. And when they come through that field of view, they're definitely going to be seen in the shot. So what they do is, to compensate, is they'll pull down on the quad and shift the frame down so you can get it out of there. And I'll show you an example of that now. You'll see that I'm starting off at a standard position and I'm in sport mode on the Mavic Air. And now I'm going to kick it into gear. Watch how that frame changes. And there's no way for me to adjust it back up to get the rest of that frame in there. So that's a little bit frustrating. Look at the Parrot. The Parrot has the same field of view as the Mavic Air. It's an 85. This is 85, this is 84, so it's just about the same. But look at the intrusion. It's literally about an inch. So you're not going to see those props. And the cool thing is, they've set it forward, so the camera's forward enough. This one has the camera underneath it, and that's really where the trouble comes from. So the fact that they set the camera so far forward means I have no prop intrusion at all, and I can put this thing into sport mode, and I can fly it at full speed and not see the props. And again, you're thinking, well, why would you film at sport mode? Why can't you just film at regular mode and speed it up? And that's a great question. The reason you can't is because a lot of times if I'm out on a lake chasing a boat or a jet ski, or I'm chasing somebody on a motorcycle or a bicycle for filming, right? I'm trying to stay up with them. I have to go into sport mode to stay up with them. And going into sport mode in this means I've got to anticipate where the framing is going to end up, or at least do a couple of test runs so I can adjust the position of the quad against that frame rate with the frame position. This guy, I don't have to worry about that. I can go in complete sport mode, chase that boat, not have prop intrusion, which is great. And that's super important for a lot of those shots. So for those shots that I've got to get where things are moving really, really quickly and I want to catch them at speed and stay up with them, I got to use the Parrot Anafi to do that. So that's one of the major advantages. Another thing I'll mention is, the third thing I should say, is the ability of the Anafi to rotate its camera 180 degrees. So all the quads out there will do obviously a horizon shot where it's even with the horizon. On some of the DJIs, you can actually adjust above the horizon, I think by 15 or 20 degrees. So you can get a little bit of a tilt up like that. But none of them do this. They do a 180 degree tilt on this Parrot Anafi, which is a home run. You might think to yourself, well, okay, that's kind of cool. It's a bit of a parlor trick. Like, why would I ever do that? Well, there are times where you want to fly under something and maybe you want to look up. Maybe it's a bridge you're flying under. You want to look up underneath the bridge. But more importantly, it opens up a ton of cinematic possibilities that I can't get with the Mavic Air. So, for example, I'm showing you a shot right now where I basically started it low and I'm flying it towards me. And as I fly towards me, I've got the camera looking up. I'm standing up on a bunch of rocks. It's not that dramatic a shot, but I'm standing on a bunch of rocks and the camera is down probably 7 or 8 feet below me, shooting up at me, approaching me, and then flying over the top of me. It just gives you, as a creator, a lot more control creatively around the shots you're going to get. Now you could, I guess, run up with a gimbal, a stabilized gimbal, and get that shot and then transition over to a drone shot, but I like that I've got one tool that can do all that stuff for me. And it's not like the other quads can't compensate for some of these things, but the USB charging, home run, the fact that I've got very little prop intrusion on this thing, it's zero actually on this thing. I've got some prop intrusion here. It can even be worse on some of the bigger quads. Like for example, the Mavic 2, it's got a 77 degree field of view, but it's got a 4-inch prop intrusion in the front. So the distance between the tips of those props coming into that field of view is about 4 inches. This is about 3 inches. This is about an inch, inch and a quarter. So they've really done a great job in keeping those props out of the shot. And then the third thing is that 180 degree view of that, because if you're flying this thing and you need to get that shot a little above you to set the scene, or if you're flying in the afternoon at a sunset and want to get the moon coming into view, this is the guy you want to use for that. So for me, those three things really separate the pack, and that's why it's in my bag, because there are times where I'm out on a lake and they want me to follow a boat. I know I'm going to have prop shots here, and yeah, I could shoot in 4K and I could cut down the frame and adjust for it, but that's all extra work in post that I don't have to do with the Anafi, so why would I not use the Anafi to be out there and flying it? The last thing I'll say, I guess I'm making this 4 things I love about it, is it's a lot of fun to fly. And I guess the comparison I'll make is most of the quads out there are fairly mechanical, they're very digital, and I guess is the term I'll use, where when you turn it, there's a bit of jerkiness to it. So it's very digital when you make that turn, and you can adjust that. You can slow down the reaction of the quad to the joysticks, but you have to compensate for that in the settings. This is an incredibly graceful quad. It's got a very smooth, buttery flight. It doesn't stop on a dime like these guys do. It tends to slide a little bit at the end of the shot, but it's a much more graceful quad to fly with the standard settings on it, which means my movements in the sky, maybe it's just me, it's very subjective, my movements in the sky give me a much smoother play with this guy, much more cinematic play with this one up in the air compared to some of the other quads that are in the same price range. So I like that. I also like that it's quieter than the other quads. So if you put up a Mavic Air, wonderful quad to fly, I love flying it, but it is noisy. This guy is almost whisper quiet up in the sky comparatively between the two. So maybe I'll do a clip comparing those audio levels, but all those things together at the price point this thing is available makes it a wonderful quad for anybody out there looking for a drone in this price range with these sets of features. And again, I know it's a Wi-Fi based quad. I know it's got a 2-axis stabilized gimbal. A lot of people think of it as a toy. I don't believe it to be any of those things. And most of the filming I do is close enough to me where Wi-Fi doesn't really matter. 4K camera, beautiful streaming, wonderful remote. Everything about it is just a really class act. So I like it a lot. And those are the 3 main reasons that I take it with me pretty much every time I leave the house to go fly. And hopefully those made sense to you. So that's pretty much all I had for today. If you have any questions about anything I've covered, drop in the comments below. I've spent a lot of time at the Anafi. I fly it an awful lot, and I can answer a lot of your questions about how it works and maybe some things that you need to know about it. So don't be afraid to send me those questions and I'll answer them as quick as I can. I do have a lot more clips coming this summer, a lot of drone clips, a lot of comparisons, a lot of other high-tech stuff that we've been investigating. We're trying to expand the channel a little bit to bring a lot more high-tech stuff into the conversation for you guys, and I hope you're enjoying that because we got a lot of cool stuff planned. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button down there. Again, I've got a ton of stuff coming you're not going to want to miss, so we'd love to welcome you to the Drone Valley family. And that's pretty much it for today. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy flying.